The homeless veteran had one hot meal left in the world, and he gave it to a biker most people were afraid to look in the eye. It happened at 11:43 p.m. behind Mercy Diner outside Franklin, Tennessee, where rain hit the parking lot so hard it turned the asphalt into black glass. Samuel Whitaker sat beneath the broken awning by the ice machine, holding a foam container against his chest like it was something sacred. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans, one dinner roll wrapped in a napkin. His first real meal in 2 days. Then a Harley rolled into the lot, coughed once, and died under the flickering sign. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you are watching this from, because stories like this do not happen only in big cities. They happen at truck stops, diners, church steps, hospital parking lots, and quiet roads people pass every night without looking twice. And by the end of this story, one meal will expose a sheriff, a grave behind an old motel, and a secret that will break a biker's family all over again. The rider sat on the dead bike with both boots planted on wet asphalt. He was a big man, built like he had been carved from grief and bad decisions. His beard was streaked with gray, his jaw swollen from old fights, and rain ran down the leather vest on his back, over a patch that read, Iron Shepherd's MC. Most people inside the diner noticed him and looked away. Samuel did not. He noticed the way the man moved his left arm slower than the right, the stiffness in his neck, the way his eyes checked exits before faces, soldier habits, old ones, the kind you did not learn from television. The biker tried the ignition again. Nothing. He patted his pockets, jacket, jeans, vest, saddlebag. His jaw tightened. Samuel knew that look. A man trying to stay calm while realizing he had no phone, no wallet, no backup, and no one close enough to call. The diner door opened, spilling warm yellow light onto the sidewalk. Rachel, the night waitress, leaned out with one hand holding her apron against the wind. "Cole, you all right?" The biker looked up. "Battery's dead, phone's gone, wallet too. You want me to call somebody?" He hesitated too long. Pride is loud when it has nothing left to stand on. "Nah, I'll figure it out." Rachel frowned, but a table inside called for coffee, and she disappeared back into the warmth. Samuel watched the big man lower himself onto the curb beside the dead motorcycle. Rain dripped from his beard. His stomach made a sound even the storm could not hide. For a few seconds, Samuel looked down at the container in his lap. He could smell the gravy through the lid. His hands shook from hunger. The church kitchen had closed before he got there. Rachel had slipped him this meal in a paper bag and said, "Don't tell my manager." Samuel had planned to eat half tonight and save half for morning. Instead, he stood. His knees cracked. One bad hip, 2 bad winters, and too many nights under concrete made standing feel like negotiation. He tucked his old army coat tighter around his thin frame and crossed the parking lot. The biker looked up when Samuel stopped in front of him. Neither spoke. Cole Mercer had the kind of face that made strangers careful. Not cruel, just hard. The face of a man who had buried friends, made enemies, and learned not to apologize for surviving either. Samuel held out the foam container. Cole stared at it. "What's that?" "Dinner." "I can see that." "Then take it." Cole gave a short laugh with no humor in it. "No offense, old-timer, but you look like you need that more than I do." Samuel's eyes did not move. No man who served should ride hungry. Something changed in Cole's face, just enough. His eyes dropped to Samuel's neck, where 2 dull dog tags hung from a rusted chain beneath the collar of his coat. "You military?" "Once." "What branch?" "Army." Cole waited. Samuel gave him nothing else. Rain kept falling. Cars hissed by on the road beyond the diner. Inside, someone laughed at something on the television, and the sound felt like it belonged to another world. Cole shook his head. "I'm not taking your food." Samuel set the container on the motorcycle seat. "Then leave it there and let the rain eat it." Cole looked at him for a long moment, then at the food, then back at Samuel. "You always this stubborn?" "Only when I'm right." A reluctant smile touched Cole's mouth, but it vanished quickly. He opened the container. Steam rose into the cold night. His face betrayed him before he could stop it. Hunger does that. He picked up the plastic fork and took one bite, then another, slower. Not because he was not hungry, but because he understood what it meant to accept something from a man who had almost nothing. Samuel leaned against the wall beside him, hands deep in his coat pockets. "You got people coming?" "Club's 2 counties over. We were riding back from a veterans fundraiser in Nashville. Stopped for gas. Somewhere between there and here my saddlebag strap snapped. Phone, wallet, everything. Didn't notice until the bike started coughing. Fundraiser for veterans," Samuel said. Cole glanced at him. "Yeah. That right? You got a problem with that?" Samuel gave a small shrug. "Lots of people raise money for veterans. Fewer notice them sitting 10 feet away." Cole stopped eating. The words landed harder than Samuel meant them to, or maybe exactly as hard as they needed to. Cole looked past him, toward the shadow under the awning where Samuel had been sitting. A torn blanket, a plastic grocery bag, boots with cardboard stuffed into the soles. "You sleep here?" "Sometimes." Help you?" Samuel laughed once, dry, empty. "That answer your question?" Cole looked down at the meal, suddenly ashamed of the fork in his hand. "Don't do that," Samuel said. "Do what?" "Turn my hunger into your guilt. Food's already yours." Cole studied him more carefully. Beneath the white beard and hollow cheeks, there was still structure in Samuel's face. A square jaw, pale blue eyes that did not wander. A man reduced by life, not erased by it. "What's your name?" Samuel hesitated. Names were dangerous when you lived outside. Names connected you to records, debts, people who could find you or claim they never knew you. But there was respect in Cole's voice. "Samuel Whitaker." Cole's hand tightened around the fork. "Whitaker," he repeated. Samuel heard the shift. "You know the name?" "Maybe. I knew a medic once. My brother talked about him. Iraq. Called him Doc Whitaker." Samuel's face went still. Rain seemed louder. Cole noticed. "You know him?" "Lots of medics in Iraq. My brother said this one carried him through fire after an IED hit their convoy outside Ramadi. Said the guy stayed with him even after shrapnel tore up his own leg. Said he kept saying, 'Stay awake, Mercer. Don't you die on my boots.'" Samuel turned his face away, but not fast enough. Cole stood slowly. "My brother's name was Danny Mercer." Samuel closed his eyes, just for 1 second. But Cole saw it. "You're him," Cole said quietly. Samuel's jaw worked. No words came. "You're Doc Whitaker." "That man's gone." "No, he's standing in front of me." "Finish your food." "Sam, I said finish your food." The force in his voice surprised both of them. Cole looked down at the container. Half the meatloaf was gone. The dinner roll was still wrapped in a napkin. He picked it up, broke it in 2, and held one half out. No man who served should stand hungry either. Samuel stared at the bread like accepting it cost more than giving away the whole meal. Then he took it. They ate in silence under the dead neon sign. When Cole finished, he wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and nodded toward the diner. "I'll get Rachel to call my people. Soon as I'm moving, I'm coming back. Food, dry clothes, a bed if you want it." Samuel gave him a tired smile. Men say many things when they're warm inside. "I'm not warm." "You will be." "You don't believe me." Samuel looked toward the far end of the parking lot. A sheriff's cruiser rolled slowly past the entrance, headlights cutting across the wet pavement before continuing down the road. Samuel's shoulders tightened. Cole followed his gaze. "You in trouble?" "There's different kinds of trouble." "What kind is yours?" Samuel reached inside his coat and touched something folded. Paper, maybe. "The kind that gets worse when decent men ask questions." Cole's expression hardened. "Then I'm definitely coming back." "You should ride away." too late. "You don't know what this is." "Then tell me." Samuel opened his mouth. The diner door swung open. Rachel called, "Cole, phone's working. Your guy says 20 minutes. Cole glanced back for half a second. When he turned around, Samuel was already walking away, half a dinner roll in one hand, rain dripping from the brim of his cap. "Sam!" The old man stopped but did not turn. "I'll be back in the morning." Samuel stood beneath the flickering light. "That's what everybody says." Then he disappeared around the corner. By sunrise, the storm had passed, leaving the parking lot washed clean and shining under a pale gray sky. Cole came back before the diner opened. He rode in with 2 iron shepherds behind him, a paper bag full of breakfast biscuits strapped to his bike, a thermos of coffee, dry socks, a new coat, and $300 cash folded in an envelope he had no intention of letting Samuel refuse. He parked by the ice machine. The awning was empty. No blanket, no grocery bag, no old boots by the wall. "Sam?" Nothing answered but the hum of the diner sign. Smoke, a narrow rider with quiet eyes, walked toward the back of the building. "Cole!" There was something in his voice that made Cole move fast. Behind the dumpster near the storm drain, rainwater had collected in a shallow black pool. Floating in it was half a dinner roll, soaked and falling apart. Beside it, on the asphalt, was a smear of blood. Cole crouched slowly. Then he saw the dog tags. Samuel Whitaker's tags lay twisted around something silver. A sheriff's badge, bent almost in half. Cole picked them up with 2 fingers and his whole body went still. Smoke looked down the alley, then back at him. What the hell happened here? Cole closed his fist around the tags until the metal cut into his palm. Somewhere far down the highway, a siren wailed once and vanished. Cole stood. His face had changed. The man who had accepted a meal in the rain was gone. In his place stood the president of the Iron Shepherds Motorcycle Club. And he was done asking politely. 16 years before Samuel Whitaker bled behind a diner with his dog tags wrapped around a bent sheriff's badge, men used to scream his name like it meant salvation. "Doc!" That was what they called him in Iraq. Not Samuel, not Whitaker, not Sergeant. Doc. The name followed him through smoke, sand, burning oil, and the terrible metallic smell that came after explosions. In 2007, outside Ramadi, Samuel Whitaker was 39 years old, lean, sharp-eyed, and already older inside than most men became by 70. He carried more gauze than ammunition, more morphine than cigarettes, more names in his head than any man should have to remember. He had one rule. Nobody died alone if he could reach them. The day Danny Mercer's convoy was hit, the sky had been white with heat. Samuel was in the 3rd vehicle when the lead Humvee vanished in a flash so bright it seemed to erase sound itself. Then sound came back all at once. Men shouting, metal screaming, a tire spinning uselessly in dust. Somebody yelling for God, somebody yelling for his mother. Samuel was out before anyone told him to move. Rounds cracked from a rooftop. Sand jumped near his boots. A lieutenant shouted for him to stay behind cover, but Samuel had already seen the young Marine trapped in the burning wreck, arm twisted wrong, blood pouring down his neck. The kid was conscious. That made it worse. "Stay awake!" Samuel shouted, crawling through dirt as bullets snapped past his helmet. "You hear me? Stay awake!" The Marine tried to answer, but smoke filled his mouth. Samuel reached the vehicle, shoved his shoulder through broken metal, and grabbed the kid by the vest. "What's your name?" "Danny." "Danny what?" "Mercer." The boy could not have been more than 22. "All right, Mercer. You don't die on my boots." Samuel pulled until something in his own leg tore. Pain flashed white. He pulled again. The vehicle behind them caught fire. Someone screamed, "Doc, move!" Samuel got Danny free 3 seconds before the gas tank went. The blast threw both men into a ditch. Samuel woke with blood in his teeth, shrapnel in his thigh, and Danny Mercer's fingers locked around his sleeve. The kid was alive. That was enough. For 18 hours, Samuel worked until his hands cramped into claws. He packed wounds, started lines, cut uniforms, talked men through shock, lied when he had to, prayed when he had no time to believe in anything. By dawn, 6 men were alive because he had refused to stop moving. Danny Mercer was one of them. Later, in the field hospital, Danny tried to thank him. Samuel did not let him. "Write your mother, that's thanks enough." Danny smiled through cracked lips. "I got a brother, Cole. He's going to want to meet you. Tell him to join the line." That was the last time Samuel ever saw Danny Mercer. War did not destroy Samuel in one dramatic moment. It followed him home politely, waited in corners, sat at the table, slept beside him, and whispered when the lights went out. At first, people called him a hero. There was a ceremony at the armory in Knoxville, a medal pinned to his chest, handshakes, photographs. His wife Linda stood beside him in a blue dress, smiling like she could hold him together by force of love alone. Their daughter Grace was 11, wearing white shoes and a yellow ribbon in her hair. After the ceremony, Grace ran to him and hugged him around the waist. "You're famous now, Daddy." Samuel laughed because he did not know what else to do. "No, sweetheart, I'm just tired." That tiredness never left. It became part of the house. At breakfast, it sat in his shoulders. At church, it made him stare too long at exits. At night, it crawled into his chest and turned his breath short. Linda noticed first. She noticed the way he stopped sitting with his back to windows, the way he flinched when a pan dropped, the way he walked the hallway at 3 a.m., checking locks already locked. She noticed bottles multiplying in the bathroom cabinet, sleep aids, pain pills, anxiety pills, pills for the pills. One night, Grace found him in the garage, sitting on the floor with an old combat boot in his hands. He was crying without sound. "Daddy?" Samuel looked up and saw fear in his little girl's face. Something in him broke quietly. After that, he hid it better. That was his first mistake. When Linda got sick, Samuel was already losing pieces of himself. Cancer took her fast. 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. 6 months of hospital chairs, insurance papers, unpaid bills, Grace pretending not to cry in school bathrooms, and Samuel learning that helplessness could be sharper than shrapnel. The day they buried Linda, rain fell so hard cemetery workers laid boards over the mud. Grace stood beside the grave, 18 years old, arms wrapped around herself. Samuel wanted to hold her, wanted to say something a father should say, but grief filled his mouth with sand. So he stood in his dress uniform and said nothing. Grace never forgave him for that silence. Maybe she was right not to. After Linda died, everything slid. First the house payment, then the truck, then the warehouse job after Samuel hit the floor during a pallet backfire because it sounded too much like an IED. His supervisor called it unsafe. The paperwork called it termination with cause. Then came the VA letters, appointments rescheduled, claims under review, missing documents, benefits delayed pending verification. Samuel kept every letter in a folder because soldiers were trained to keep records. But records did not keep him warm when the power was shut off. They did not stop the bank notice taped to the front door. They did not make Grace answer after the final fight when she told him he had become a ghost wearing her father's face. He tried shelters. Some nights he got a bed. Some nights he got robbed. Some nights the crowd was too loud, too tight, too full of men screaming in their sleep. So he chose concrete instead. Under bridges, behind churches, near loading docks, Samuel learned the geography of being unwanted. Where to sleep when it rained. Which gas stations threw away sandwiches at midnight. Which cops kicked your boots and which ones looked through you. Which people said, "Thank you for your service," while stepping around your body on the sidewalk. For a while, he disappeared completely. Then Patriot House came. That was what the banners called it. A new program for homeless veterans, temporary housing, medical care, job placement. A grateful community giving back, the mayor smiled beside the sign. Sheriff Harlan Pike stood next to him in full uniform. Developer Paul Granger shook hands with veterans in front of cameras and promised that no man who wore the uniform would be left behind. Samuel wanted to believe it. That was the sad part. For 2 weeks, social workers came under the bridge with clipboards. They took names, dates of birth, social security numbers, service histories. Men who had not trusted anyone in years gave their information because the woman with the clipboard said rooms were coming. Then men began to vanish. First was Archie Bell, Navy, Vietnam, bad lungs, always wearing a red watch cap. They said Archie had been placed in a facility outside the county, but his watch cap stayed under the bridge, folded beside his blanket. Then Michael Ruiz, Army mechanic, Gulf War. Then Teddy Small, who had one arm and a laugh you could hear half a block away. Each time someone said they had been transferred. Each time, no one gave an address. Samuel started writing names, not because he was brave, because he was trained to count casualties. He wrote dates, badge numbers, van plates, faces. He followed a white county transport van one afternoon and saw it pull not into a shelter, but behind the old Ridgeway Motel, a condemned place bought by Granger Development 6 months earlier. That night, Samuel dug through a dumpster behind the county office and found shredded paperwork in a clear trash bag. Most people would have seen garbage. Samuel saw forms, names, signatures, checks issued to men who were supposedly housed, treated, fed. Archie Bell had received $4,800 in housing assistance 2 days after Samuel found his watch cap abandoned in rain. Michael Ruiz had signed a medical release in handwriting that looked nothing like his. Teddy Small, who could barely hold a spoon with his remaining hand, had supposedly opened a bank account and authorized direct deposit. Samuel took the scraps. He taped them together in the back booth of Mercy Diner while Rachel poured coffee and pretended not to notice. For 3 months he collected proof, photos of vans, copies of forms, names of shell companies. A recording outside the motel where Pike told a deputy, "Move the old ones first. Nobody asks about them." Samuel tried to tell a local reporter. She never called back. He tried the veterans' office. 2 days later, a deputy found him under the bridge and broke 2 of his fingers with a flashlight. After that, Samuel understood. This was not neglect. This was business, and business had badges. The night before he met Cole Mercer, Samuel hid the strongest evidence somewhere no cop would search. Not in his bag, not under the bridge, not with another homeless man who could be scared or bribed. He hid it inside Mercy Diner itself, behind the old jukebox Rachel kept because her father had bought it in 1978. Then he sat under the awning with his last meal, knowing men were watching him from across the road. He should have eaten fast and left. Instead, a hungry biker rolled into the rain. And Samuel Whitaker, who had lost almost everything except the habit of saving people, gave away his dinner. At 1:12 a.m., 2 hours after Cole left, the sheriff's cruiser returned. Samuel was behind the diner, chewing the last half of the dinner roll slowly because hunger made a man careful with bread. The headlights stopped on him. A door opened. Sheriff Pike stepped out, hat low, rain ticking off the brim. "Well, Doc," Pike said, "heard you made a new friend tonight." Samuel stood slowly. His bad leg trembled. Pike smiled. "You should have stayed invisible." 2 deputies came around the cruiser. Samuel backed toward the dumpster, one hand slipping inside his coat toward the folded paper he still carried. Pike noticed. "Don't." Samuel ran anyway. He made it 6 steps before the first baton hit the back of his knee. He went down hard, cheek striking wet asphalt. The dinner roll fell from his hand and rolled toward the storm drain. A deputy grabbed his collar. Pike crouched beside him and pulled the dog tags from beneath Samuel's coat. "Look at that," Pike murmured. "A hero." Then he pressed something cold and metal into Samuel's palm. His own sheriff's badge. Bent. Blood slick. "You're going to help me send a message to your biker friend." Samuel tasted rain, blood, and old fear. But when Pike leaned closer, Samuel smiled through broken teeth. "Too late," he whispered. Pike's smile faded. Samuel turned his head toward the diner wall, toward the old jukebox inside, toward the secret they still had not found. "I already did." By 7:18 a.m., Cole Mercer had stopped being grateful. Gratitude was too soft for what he felt. He stood behind Mercy Diner with Samuel's dog tags in one hand and a bent sheriff's badge in the other, staring at blood drying in the cracks. The morning smelled like wet gravel, burned coffee, and something metallic that tightened his throat. Smoke crouched near the storm drain. He didn't leave on his own. Cole did not answer. A man did not drop his tags unless someone tore them from his neck. A man like Sam did not leave bread behind unless he had no choice. A sheriff's badge did not end up bent in blood by accident. Rachel unlocked the back door with one hand, balancing a tray of mugs with the other. She was halfway through saying, "We're not open yet," when she saw Cole's face. Then she saw the blood. The tray slipped, 3 mugs shattered. "Oh God, where's Sam?" Cole turned. "That's what I came to ask you." Rachel's eyes moved from the dog tags to the badge. The color drained from her face. "Inside, now." The diner was empty except for the cook in back and an old man asleep in the corner booth with his hat over his eyes. Rachel locked the front door, flipped the sign to closed, and pulled down the blinds with shaking hands. Cole, Smoke, and Diesel followed her to the counter. Diesel was 6'5", built like a refrigerator with a beard, but even he moved carefully now. Men like him knew the difference between a fight and a trap. Rachel poured coffee into 3 cups, forgot to hand them out, then gripped the counter. "Sam was scared last night." Cole leaned forward. "Of who?" She looked toward the window before answering. "Sheriff Pike." Diesel's jaw flexed. "County sheriff?" Rachel nodded. "Harlan Pike. Runs this town like it's his personal hunting lease. Smiles at fundraisers, shakes hands at church, brings toys to the children's hospital every Christmas. But people who cross him either shut up or leave." Sam crossed him. Rachel looked at the tags again. Sam crossed something bigger than Pike. The old man in the corner booth shifted, his hat lifted. "Girl," he rasped, "you sure you want to talk?" Rachel turned. "Preacher, if you know something, now's the time." The old man sat up slowly, thin as wire, beard yellowed by tobacco, coat too heavy for the season, a Bible in one pocket and a bottle-shaped emptiness in the other. But his eyes were clear, too clear. Preacher looked at Cole. "You the biker he fed?" Cole nodded. "He said you'd come back." Cole felt that in his chest. "When?" "After you left." Preacher rubbed both hands over his face. "I was across the street under the car wash roof. Saw the cruiser roll in after one. Pike got out with 2 deputies. Sam stood up like he knew they were coming." Rachel covered her mouth. Cole's voice went low. "They take him alive?" "Alive when they put him in the car." Diesel took 1 step toward the door. Cole raised a hand. "Not yet." Every instinct in him wanted engines roaring, boots through the sheriff's office, Pike's face against a desk until someone told the truth. But men like Pike counted on that. They needed bikers to act like monsters so nobody would ask what the badge had done. Cole forced himself to breathe. "What else?" Preacher hesitated. Smoke noticed. "Old man." Preacher reached into his coat and pulled out a folded paper, damp at the edges. He set it on the counter like it might explode. "Sam gave me this 3 days ago. Said if he vanished, give it to someone angry enough to be useful and smart enough not to die fast." Cole unfolded it. 17 names. Archie Bell, Michael Ruiz, Teddy Small, Wayne Carter, Joseph Hanley. Beside 3, Sam had drawn small crosses. At the bottom, in cramped handwriting, were 2 words. Patriot House. "What is Patriot House?" Rachel laughed once, bitter and short. "A promise." She pointed toward a faded newspaper clipping taped near the register. Cole stepped closer. In the photo, Sheriff Pike stood beside a polished man in a navy suit and a mayor with too many teeth. Behind them was a banner. Patriot House Initiative, Housing Our Heroes. The headline read, "County approves $18 million veteran housing project." $18 million, Rachel said. Federal grants, state money, private donations. They were supposed to renovate the old Ridgeway Motel into transitional housing, medical care, job placement, counseling. Smoke stared at the clipping. Supposed to? Drive by Ridgeway now. Windows boarded, fence up, nothing built. But every few weeks, another press release says beds are full and veterans are being served. Cole looked at the names. And Sam knew they weren't. Preacher nodded. Sam knew because he watched men disappear. Rachel touched one name with her finger. Archie Bell used to come here every Tuesday. Navy veteran, bad lungs. Always asked for extra crackers to feed pigeons. One day a county van picked him up. Said he got placement through Patriot House. Her face hardened. 3 days later, Sam found Archie's watch cap under the bridge. Archie never went anywhere without that cap. Cole looked around the diner. Red stools, old jukebox, bacon starting in the kitchen. A normal place. A safe-looking place. That made it worse. Evil did not always live in dark alleys. Sometimes it had permits, banners, and a ribbon-cutting photo. Smoke pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the club." Cole nodded. Smoke stepped away, voice low. "Full alert. No bars, no sleeping in, no excuses. President's order. Missing veteran. Possible sheriff involvement." "Yeah, you heard me." Rachel stared at Cole. "You can't just go after Pike." "I'm not going after anyone." "Your face says different." "My face isn't in charge." Diesel snorted. "That's new." Cole ignored him. "You got cameras?" Rachel hesitated. "You got cameras." She looked at the ceiling. "Parking lot camera. It glitches when it rains." "Show me." She did not move. Cole softened his voice. "Rachel." Her eyes filled. "If Pike finds out I helped you, I lose this place. Maybe worse." Cole looked at the closed blinds, the empty booths, the coffee still steaming. Then he took off his iron shepherd's ring and set it in front of her. Heavy silver, scratched by years of road and funerals. A shepherd's hook crossed with a motorcycle chain. "My club has 63 members within 3 counties. Veterans, mechanics, nurses, lawyers, contractors. One retired judge who still scares people. You help me find Sam, and Pike doesn't get to scare you alone anymore." Rachel stared at the ring. "What if he scares all of you?" Cole's smile had no warmth. "Then he better bring friends." Rachel led them through the kitchen into a cramped office that smelled like paper, grease, and old cigarettes. A small monitor sat on a filing cabinet, connected to a recording box with a blinking red light. She rewound the footage. The screen showed the parking lot at 11:43 p.m. Rain streaked across the lens. Cole saw himself roll in on the dead Harley, saw Sam under the awning, saw the old man walk across the lot carrying the foam container. Nobody spoke. They watched Sam hand over his last meal, watched Cole refuse, watched Sam put the container on the motorcycle seat. Diesel shifted behind him. Damn. Cole kept his eyes on the screen. The footage skipped. For several minutes, rain blurred everything. Then Cole left with Rachel's phone in his hand to call his brothers. Sam moved toward the side of the building. Rachel fast-forwarded. 1:12 a.m. Headlights swept into frame. A sheriff's cruiser. Pike stepped out. 2 deputies followed. No sound, but body language was enough. Pike spoke. Sam stood. One deputy moved left. The other moved right. Sam tried to back away. Then the footage glitched black. "How long?" Cole asked. "Usually a few seconds." The image returned. Sam was on the ground. Cole leaned closer. One deputy had a knee in Sam's back. The other picked something up from the asphalt. Pike crouched beside Sam, close enough that his face filled the camera for one brief moment when he looked toward the diner. Rachel froze the frame. Pike was smiling. Cole's hand closed around the dog tags until blood touched metal. Smoke's phone buzzed. "Club's moving. First wave in 20 minutes. Cole did not look away from the screen. "Make copies." Rachel nodded, crying silently. "I'll put it on a drive." Preacher stood in the doorway, hat in his hands. "There's more." Cole turned. Sam wasn't just collecting names. He found where they kept records. Said if anything happened, the proof was inside something that still plays Linda's song. Rachel went completely still. Linda? Cole asked. Sam's wife, Rachel whispered. She turned toward the dining room, toward the old jukebox in the corner. Chrome faded, glass yellowed, song cards curling at the edges. Cole walked to it. Rachel followed. He loved that machine. Every time he had 2 quarters, he played the same song. B-17. Linda's favorite. Cole looked at the jukebox. B-17. He reached for the glass. That was when tires screamed outside. Not one car, several. The diner windows flashed red and blue. Rachel sucked in a breath. Preacher whispered, "Too late." Cole looked through the blinds. 3 sheriff's cruisers blocked the front entrance. Sheriff Pike stepped out of the middle car, hat low, one hand resting near his sidearm. 4 deputies spread behind him. On the office monitor, Pike's frozen smile still stared from the night before. Outside, the real Pike looked toward the diner door and lifted a bullhorn. "Cole Mercer, step outside with your hands where I can see them." Diesel cracked his neck. Smoke slid his phone into his pocket. Rachel backed toward the jukebox. Cole stood in the middle of Mercy Diner, Sam's dog tags wrapped around his bleeding hand, the proof almost within reach, and the sheriff who had taken him waiting outside with guns. Pike raised the bullhorn again. "You have 30 seconds." Cole Mercer had 30 seconds to decide what kind of man the town would see. The one Sheriff Pike wanted on camera, or the one Samuel Whitaker had trusted without meaning to. Outside, red and blue lights washed over the rain-streaked windows. Pike stood between 2 cruisers with a bullhorn and a calm smile, like he had done this before and already knew how the story ended. Inside, Diesel's fists opened and closed. "Say the word." Cole did not look at him. "No." Smoke stared through the blinds. 4 deputies, maybe 5. 2 behind the cruisers. Pike's got body armor under his shirt. Rachel backed away from the jukebox. "He'll say you threatened me, or robbed the diner." "Only if we give him the picture he came for," Cole said. Pike's voice boomed. 20 seconds, Mercer. Don't make this ugly." Cole looked around. Rachel by the counter, shaking but standing. Preacher near the hallway, old hands trembling around his hat. Smoke with one thumb over his phone. Diesel ready to turn the building into a war. And the old jukebox in the corner, hiding whatever Sam had risked his life to protect. Cole made the only choice that might keep Sam alive. He lifted both hands. "Smoke, record everything. Rachel, stay behind the counter." "Diesel, don't touch anybody unless they touch her." Diesel's eyes burned. "And you?" "I go outside." "Cole." He stopped with his hand on the lock. Smoke's voice was low. "You step out there. He owns the frame." Cole looked back. "Then make sure the whole world sees what's outside the frame." He opened the door. Cold morning air rushed in, carrying rain, exhaust, and loaded weapons. Cole stepped onto the sidewalk with his hands up. The deputies raised guns anyway. Pike smiled wider. "There he is, Cole Mercer, president of the Iron Shepherds Motorcycle Club. Get on your knees." Cole kept walking until he stood beneath the diner sign. "No." One deputy shifted his grip. Pike tilted his head. "Excuse me? You want to talk? We talk here. Cameras on. Witnesses inside. Hands where everyone can see them." Pike lowered the bullhorn. The smile stayed, but his eyes changed. "You think this is a negotiation?" "I think you're standing in front of a diner at 7 in the morning with half your department pointing guns at a man whose bike broke down last night. Looks bad if nobody hears why." Pike took 2 steps closer. "You're being detained in connection with an assault on a county officer." Cole held up the bent badge between 2 fingers. "This officer?" For the first time, Pike's expression cracked. Just a hairline, but Cole saw it. Pike recovered fast. That badge was stolen from my vehicle during an incident involving a violent vagrant. A vagrant named Samuel Whitaker, among other names. Where is he? Pike sighed for the cameras. Mr. Whitaker was taken into protective custody after attacking a deputy. Funny, the blood behind the diner says somebody attacked him. Blood doesn't tell stories, Mercer. People do. And you're good at stories. Pike stepped close enough that only Cole could hear the softness under his voice. Listen carefully. I know your club. I know your permits, charities, veteran fundraisers. I can turn every one of those into an investigation by lunch. Cole did not move. Or you can get on your bike, ride back to whatever hole you came from and forget the old man. He has no family, no address, no value to anyone. Cole leaned forward just enough. That's where you made your mistake. Pike's eyes narrowed. Cole lifted Samuel's dog tags. He has us now. A sound rolled in from the highway, low at first, then deeper. Engines, many of them. Pike looked past Cole. Motorcycles appeared through the gray morning light, one after another, then 6, then 12. Black helmets, wet chrome, headlights burning in formation. The Iron Shepherds had arrived. They did not roar into the lot like a gang. They rolled in clean, slow, controlled. 2 straight lines, engines off, hands visible. Men and women stepped away from their bikes and stood without speaking. That silence did more than any threat could. Pike recalculated. A sheriff could explain 1 biker, maybe 3. But 37 witnesses with cameras and no raised voices changed the morning. Smoke came out of the diner holding his phone at chest level. Rachel stood behind him with hers. Preacher stayed in the doorway, small and scared and present. Pike turned toward Smoke. Turn that off. Smoke smiled without humor. Public sidewalk. This is an active law enforcement matter. Then behave like it. A deputy moved toward him. Diesel stepped out of the diner. He said nothing. The deputy stopped. Pike forced calm back into his face. All right. Mr. Mercer, since you're concerned about Mr. Whitaker, I'll ease your mind. He's alive. He's being held for evaluation after a violent episode. He'll be processed properly. Where? That's not information I'm required to share with you. Then share it with his daughter. Pike blinked. Cole saw it. There. The first real hit. You didn't know we found her, Cole said. Pike's face went empty. Not confused. Empty. A man shutting doors in his head. Samuel Whitaker's daughter has no legal involvement here. She will by noon. For 1 second, nobody spoke. Then Pike turned away as if bored. Deputies, clear the lot. The younger deputy looked unsure. Sheriff? You heard me. Cole lowered his hands slowly. Pike pointed at him. This isn't over. Cole looked through the diner window at the old jukebox. No, it's not. Pike got into his cruiser. The deputies followed, slower than before. Their eyes kept moving over the bikers, the phones, the faces watching from the diner. The cruisers pulled away one by one. Only when the last one disappeared did Rachel breathe. Diesel turned to Cole. We should have taken him. And lost Sam. Smoke lowered his phone. Got it all. Pike admitting Sam's alive, saying custody, refusing location. Good. Preacher's voice came from the doorway. You scared him. Cole watched the road. No. We reminded him other people exist. Inside, Rachel went straight to the jukebox. Her hands shook as she unlocked the glass panel with a tiny key from the register. My father bought this machine when the diner opened. Sam always played the same song, B-17, Linda's song. Cole stood beside her as she flipped through title cards. B-14, B-15, B-16, B-17. The faded label read, Angel from Montgomery. Rachel swallowed. He cried once when it played. Thought nobody saw. She pressed the selection tab. The jukebox clicked. Something shifted inside. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the song began, scratchy and soft, filling the diner with a voice singing about being old before her time. Rachel closed her eyes. Cole watched the mechanism. Behind the record carriage, taped to metal, was a small plastic bag. Smoke grabbed a screwdriver from the kitchen. Diesel blocked the windows. Rachel held the flashlight. Cole reached in and peeled the bag loose. Inside was a brass key, a torn photograph of Samuel with a woman and a little girl, and a folded note in tight handwriting. Cole opened it. "If I am gone, do not trust the sheriff." No one spoke. Cole kept reading. "Ridgeway is not housing. It is storage. Records moved every Thursday through locker 214 at the Greyhound station. Patriot House is theft, but the theft is not the worst part. Men signed papers after they disappeared. Some signed after they died." Rachel made a small sound. Cole read the final line. "If Grace is with you, tell her I came back. Tell her they lied." Cole folded the note. "Who's Grace?" Diesel asked. "His daughter." Smoke checked his phone. "I can find her." "Do it." Rachel picked up the photograph. Samuel looked younger in it, still tired but standing tall. Linda leaned against his shoulder. A little girl with dark hair sat on his knee, smiling with both front teeth missing. "That was him," Rachel whispered. "Before." Smoke's phone buzzed. "Grace Whitaker," he said. "Registered nurse. St. Agnes ER. Night shift ended 20 minutes ago." Cole took the photo. "Call her." Smoke dialed and put it on speaker. It rang 6 times. A woman answered, exhausted and guarded. "This is Grace." "Grace Whitaker?" "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Cole Mercer. I'm with the Iron Shepherd's Motorcycle Club." Silence. Then colder. "I'm hanging up." "Your father is alive." The line went quiet. When Grace spoke again, her voice had changed. "My father has been dead to me for years." "He's not dead. But someone may be trying to make sure he is." A breath. "What happened?" "He tried to expose Patriot House. Sheriff Pike took him last night. He left your name in a note." Grace laughed once, but it broke in the middle. "My father doesn't leave notes for me." "This one says to tell you he came back." Silence. "He says they lied." The sound through the phone was not crying, not exactly. It was a wound opening after being held shut too long. "Where are you?" "Mercy Diner." "I'm 10 minutes away." Cole looked at the bikers in the lot, at Rachel holding the photograph, at the jukebox still playing Linda's song. "Grace, come carefully." She had already hung up. 8 minutes later, a blue Honda turned into the lot too fast. A woman in navy scrubs stepped out, early 30s, dark hair pulled back, hospital badge still clipped to her pocket. She looked nothing like the smiling child in the photograph until she lifted her chin. Then Cole saw Samuel. Grace walked toward them like a woman entering a room where she expected to be hurt. Cole met her halfway and held out the photograph. She did not take it. She stared. "I gave him that picture the day before he left. He kept it." Her eyes flashed. "No. He lost the right to keep it." Before Cole could answer, a black SUV pulled into the far end of the lot. No lights, no markings. The driver's window lowered just enough to show a camera lens. Smoke cursed. "We've got company." The SUV reversed hard. Cole turned to the riders. "Follow it. Don't engage." 3 bikes started. Grace stared at the note in Cole's hand. "What is Ridgeway?" "The place your father said they keep the men." Grace's face went white. "My hospital got a John Doe from Ridgeway last night." Cole's body went still. Old male, beaten, no ID, police hold. Cole stepped closer. "They brought him in under another name." Grace drove like she was trying to outrun every year she had spent hating her father. Cole followed with Diesel and Smoke behind him. The rest of the Iron Shepherd split clean. Riders at the diner, riders at the Greyhound station, riders watching the black SUV. Cole had given one order: no heroes alone, because that was how men disappeared. Before they reached the hospital, Cole's phone vibrated in his vest pocket. Unknown number. One photo. Samuel's dog tags on a metal table. Under it, a message: walk away or he stops breathing before noon. Cole showed it to Smoke without slowing the bike. Smoke's face hardened. They still think fear works. Cole looked at Grace's car weaving through traffic ahead of them. It works. That's why we don't let it drive. He forwarded the photo to Marcus, Rachel, and every officer-friendly contact the club had built through years of charity rides and funeral escorts. If Pike wanted silence, Cole would answer with witnesses. If Pike wanted panic, Cole would answer with a record. Still, the message did what it was meant to do. It put one question in every rider's chest. Was Sam still alive because Pike needed him? Or was he already running out of time? St. Agnes Medical Center smelled like disinfectant, burned coffee, and fear hidden under routine. Grace crossed the ER without stopping, badge high on her scrubs. A nurse looked up. "Grace, you clocked out." "I need the John Doe brought in from Ridgeway last night." The nurse's face changed. "Room 312, she whispered. "Police hold." Grace did not wait for more. The security guard tried to stop Cole at the elevator. "They're with me," Grace said. On the third floor, room 312 had no name on the chart slot. Grace pushed the door open. Samuel Whitaker lay under a thin white blanket, bruised, dehydrated, one wrist cuffed to the bed rail. Without the army coat and the stubbornness holding him upright, he looked like an old man the world had finally cornered. His eyes opened. He saw Cole, then Diesel, then Grace. His face changed. "Gracie," he whispered. Grace flinched. "No, you don't get to say it like nothing happened." A tired doctor stepped in. His badge read Dr. Arun Patel. Grace pointed at the cuff. "Why is my father handcuffed?" "Sheriff's order. They said he assaulted a deputy." "Does he look like the dangerous one?" Patel looked at Samuel, then at the bikers, then closed the door. "No," he said. "He does not." Grace read the chart fast. "No ID, no next of kin, no valid hold. That's illegal." Patel lowered his voice. "He came in at 2:03 a.m. Deputies Lauren and Malloy said he fell while intoxicated. He told us his name. They told us not to record it." Grace looked at Samuel. "Why didn't you call me?" "I tried." "No, you didn't." Samuel swallowed. "Your apartment in Murfreesboro, green door, moon wind chime. I waited on the steps with flowers for your birthday. A deputy came down, said you didn't want to see me." Grace went pale. "What deputy?" "Malloy." Her knees almost gave. "Malloy told me you came drunk," she whispered. "He said you screamed in the hallway." "I had flowers," Samuel said. For a second, she was not a nurse. She was the little girl from the photograph, realizing the man she buried in her heart had been reaching for her through locked doors. Cole looked at the cuff. "Doctor?" Patel walked to a cabinet, removed a keyring, and unlocked it. "Convenient," Smoke said. "Very," Patel answered. The metal fell away. Samuel stared at his free hand like he had not expected to get it back. Cole leaned close. "Sam, we found B-17. Samuel's eyes sharpened. "Locker?" "Not yet." "Don't wait. Blue duffel, metal cash box. Code is Linda's birthday. 11/23. "What's in it?" Marcus Vale asked from the doorway, arriving in a charcoal suit with a briefcase and road scars on both hands. "Copies, names, transfers, death certificates. Patriot House is theft, but money isn't the worst part." Samuel's voice thinned. "They kept using dead men's names." No one moved. "Teddy Small was alive when they carried him into Ridgeway," Sam whispered. "He wasn't alive when they carried him out." A knock came. A clerk stood outside. "Dr. Patel? Deputies are at the elevator asking for John Doe." Smoke checked the hall. "Malloy's with them." Grace stepped between the bed and the door. Malloy entered with 2 deputies and a smile that said he still owned the story. "Hospital made a clerical error," he said. "We'll be taking John Doe back." Grace did not move. "You told me my father came to my apartment drunk." Malloy's smile thinned. "You said he didn't care about me." "Miss Whitaker, this is not the time." "He had flowers." Malloy glanced at Samuel and made his mistake. "You were better off." Diesel moved 1 step forward. Cole caught his vest. "No. Sam needs witnesses more than revenge." Malloy looked at Grace. "You're obstructing law enforcement." "Show me the hold order, signed, legal, with his real name." Malloy had no paper. Patel stepped beside her. "I made copies of the chart." That hit harder than a punch. Then Samuel spoke from the bed. "You took Archie Bell on a Thursday. White van, county plates. You told him he was getting a room. He asked for his red watch cap. You told him he wouldn't need it." Malloy's face went flat. "Michael Ruiz fought you at Ridgeway. You broke his wrist. Teddy Small cried for his sister when you carried him out." Malloy lunged toward the bed. Diesel pinned him to the wall with 1 hand. The deputy behind him reached for his gun. Cole's voice cut across the room. "Draw on a nurse, a doctor, and an unarmed patient, and every camera in this hallway sees it." Phones were already up. Marcus handed Patel a document. "Emergency petition filed. Judge Carrie Ann hears it tomorrow. Any attempt to move Mr. Whitaker without physician approval becomes witness intimidation and patient endangerment." Malloy adjusted his uniform like dignity could be fixed with a collar. "This isn't over." Grace looked at him. "No, it's finally starting." When Malloy left, Samuel let out the breath he had been holding. Grace touched the bruise on his wrist with 2 fingers. "I believed him," she whispered. Samuel shook his head. "You believed the only story they let you hear." Smoke's phone buzzed before anyone could answer. "Ridge says a county maintenance truck is at the Greyhound station. 2 men went inside. One looks like Deputy Lorne." Cole moved. "Diesel stays with Sam. Marcus locks down the hospital. Smoke, with me." Grace grabbed Cole's arm. "I'm going." "No. The code is my mother's birthday. He hid it for me, too." Samuel gave the smallest nod. She goes. Downstairs, Iron Shepherd stood outside the hospital like a silent wall. Cole gave 1 order. "Locker 214. Evidence only. No violence unless a life is in danger." Ava pulled up fast and held out her phone. On the screen, locker 214 stood open. Empty. Except for a red knit watch cap on the metal floor. Grace stared. Archie Bell never went anywhere without that cap. A second message came in. Ava read it aloud. "Ridge followed the maintenance truck. It's headed to Ridgeway Motel." Then Smoke's phone rang. He answered, listened, and all color left his face. "Cole, Ridge found something behind room 9. Cole's hands curled. "What?" Smoke swallowed. "A grave." The word grave did not make anyone shout. That was the strange part. 37 bikers stood outside St. Agnes in the wet morning light, and not one made a sound. No engines, no curses, no threats, just silence. Because everyone understood the difference between anger and horror. Cole took the phone. "Ridge, don't touch anything." Ridge's voice shook. "I didn't. Fresh dirt behind room 9. Rain washed part open. I saw a hand." Grace covered her mouth. Cole looked at her. "We listen now." She nodded once, face white, and followed him to the bikes. Only 6 riders went to Ridgeway. Smoke for video, Ava for stills, Marcus for chain of custody, Ridge already on site, Grace because she refused to stay, Cole because Sam had given him a meal and a debt. The old motel sat behind a leaning fence and a banner that read, Future home of Patriot District. Luxury apartments. Retail space. Veteran Memorial Plaza. A memorial built over the men they erased. Behind room 9, runoff had cut through fresh dirt. A black tarp showed beneath mud. Pale fingers curled out of the soil. Grace bent forward, sick. Cole stood beside her but did not touch her. Some comfort had to be invited. Marcus covered his mouth. Nobody moves closer. Smoke, wide shot. Ava, every angle. Then a sound came from room 12. A scrape. A weak knock. Once. Twice. Grace's head snapped up. Cole raised one hand. Everyone froze. A voice came through the locked door, so faint it almost blended with dripping rain. Help? Marcus was already calling 911. State police and medical response, not county. Do you understand me? Not county. Ridge cut the padlock. Cole kicked the door twice. The frame broke. Inside, Wayne Carter lay on the floor, wrists zip-tied, lips cracked, one eye swollen shut. A hospital bracelet still circled his wrist. Grace dropped beside him. Wayne, my name is Grace. You're safe right now. Cole saw papers under a folding chair. Medical releases, housing forms, blank checks, some signed, some half completed. Then he saw a blue duffel under the mattress. Inside was a metal cash box. Grace spun the lock with shaking fingers. November 23rd, Linda's birthday. The box opened. Folders, flash drives, photographs, a cassette recorder. On top lay an envelope with Grace's name in Samuel's careful hand. She tucked it into her pocket without opening it. Sirens sounded. Too soon. County. Sheriff Pike's SUV rolled into the lot with 2 cruisers behind it. Pike reached room 12 with his gun hand open, not drawn, but ready. That was worse. A man with nothing to hide came in angry. A man with everything to hide came in careful. Step away from the patient. Grace did not move. He needs an ambulance. Pike looked at Wayne, and for half a second annoyance crossed his face. Wayne was alive, and he had not planned for that. Marcus stepped into the doorway, phone in hand. Everything is recorded and uploaded. This is a potential homicide scene. Pike's eyes moved to the cash box in Smoke's hands. Cole saw the stillness in him. That box mattered. More motorcycles arrived along the fence line, shutting down without a single rev. Then, a white news van turned in from the highway. Pike smiled at Cole like a man promising future pain. You brought cameras to a grave. Cole stepped closer. You brought the grave. State troopers arrived 30 seconds later. The gray-haired trooper in charge took one look at the ground, Wayne, the cash box, and Pike's deputies. Sheriff, outside the perimeter. Pike stared. Excuse me? You heard me. He swallowed the humiliation in front of cameras, but Cole saw him store it for later. As EMS lifted Wayne, he clawed weakly at Grace's sleeve. Church, he rasped. Grace leaned down. Which church? St. Mark's. Then he passed out. Smoke called Diesel. Seconds later, his face changed. What? Cole asked. Sam heard St. Mark's and started yelling. He said, don't let them ring the bell. The words made no sense. Then, across town, a church bell began to toll. Once. Low and heavy. Twice. Pike heard it too. Cole saw fear flicker across his face. 3 times. The bell was not calling people in. It was warning someone to clean up. They rode hard to St. Mark's. By the time they arrived, maintenance trucks and Granger development vans filled the lot. Men were carrying file boxes out of the fellowship hall fast, not like workers, like burglars with permission. Inside, the Patriot House banner still hung near the stage. Housing our heroes. Under it, scrape marks cut across the carpet. Cole pulled the heavy table aside. Smoke ripped back the carpet. Beneath it was a trap door with a new lock. From below came a knock. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. SOS. Grace dropped to her knees. "Hello?" A voice whispered from the dark. "Please, don't close it." Pike burst through the front doors with his gun drawn. "Step away from that door." Nobody moved. Grace looked straight at him. "There are people down there." Pike's face went cold. "There are records down there." And Cole understood. The bell was not a warning to clear files. It was a warning to clear people. Ridge snapped the lock. Cole lifted the trapdoor and the smell rose out of the dark. Sweat, urine, blood, living human fear. A hand shot through the gap and grabbed Cole's wrist, thin, filthy, desperate. "Please," the voice whispered. "Don't close it." Pike cocked the gun. Cole stood between Pike and the stairs. "You shoot me in a church on camera, even your friends won't wash that clean." Outside, state sirens came closer. Grace grabbed Ava's flashlight and went down. Cole followed. The basement was low, damp, and brick-walled. Mattresses on the floor, buckets in corners, plastic water jugs. 5 men and 1 woman blinked into the light, all thin, all tagged with hospital bracelets or shelter bands. War had rooms like this. Places where powerful people stored the inconvenient and waited for the world not to care. The man who had grabbed Cole was Joseph Hanley, another name on Sam's list. No cross beside it. Not yet. Grace moved from person to person. "Names. I need names." An older woman with 1 bruised eye pointed to a metal door beneath the stairs. "Records." Ridge cut the lock. Inside, file boxes lined the walls. Plastic bins held wallets, IDs, pill bottles, VA cards, dog tags, and personal items sealed in bags like evidence no one intended to submit. Cole found Samuel's folder. Under status, someone had written in red marker, "Uncooperative. Remove before hearing." Grace took it and saw a fake signature authorizing Patriot House to manage her father's benefits. "That's not his." Marcus came down, looked at the shelves, and went quiet. Then he said, "This is not fraud. This is a machine." Above them, Pike argued with troopers until the gray-haired officer opened one file, then another. Her mouth tightened. "Sheriff, place your weapon on the floor." The hall went silent. Pike laughed once. "I am the elected sheriff of this county. And right now you are a potential suspect in an active crime scene. Weapon on the floor." For 1 second, Cole thought Pike might draw. Instead, he placed the gun down slowly. But his eyes stayed on Cole. This was not surrender. It was postponement. Cole's phone rang. Diesel. "Tell me Sam's okay." Static. Then Diesel's voice, strained and low. "Fire alarm hit the 3rd floor. Malloy came in with 2 orderlies and a transfer order. Security thought we were the threat. They moved the bed." Cole's grip tightened. "Where's Sam?" A pause. Too long. "They took him." Grace came up from the basement just in time to hear it. The file in her hands slipped to the floor. Across the parking lot, Pike sat between 2 troopers, and he was smiling. Grace moved toward him, but Marcus caught her. "If you hit him, he becomes the victim." "I don't care." Cole stepped in front of her. "You do. You care whether Sam lives long enough to hear you call him Dad again." That stopped her. Her mouth trembled once. "Then get him back." Smoke pulled a hospital camera image onto his phone. A white medical van leaving the loading zone. Blue Cross decal. Faded letters on the back. RMC. Grace stared. Ridgeway Medical Contractors. They lost their hospital contract, but Patriot House used them for transport. Rachel arrived from the diner with Preacher in her pickup. "Sam asked me about an old ambulance garage near County Road 18. Said if men were being moved, they needed a place between the church and Ridgeway." Marcus searched business records. "Ridgeway Medical dissolved. Assets transferred to Mercy Transitional Logistics. Property owned by Granger through a shell company." Grace pulled the envelope from her pocket and opened it with shaking fingers. Inside was a Polaroid of her as a child, Samuel behind her, Linda laughing beside a birthday cake. The letter was short. Gracie, if you are reading this, then I failed to fix it quietly. I am sorry for every year they stole from us. I came back more times than you know. I was told you hated me, and I believed it because I thought maybe you should. The full ledger is not at Ridgeway or St. Mark's. Pike keeps the living records moving, but Granger keeps the dead ones still. If they take me before I can testify, look for the place where soldiers go before they are named. Grace lowered the page. Crematorium, she whispered. Hollow Creek Crematory sat at the end of County Road 18, a low brick building with a collapsed sign and a white medical van behind it. Cole kicked the front door until the frame broke. Heat rolled out. Inside, papers burned in a barrel. Deputy Malloy stood beside a furnace control panel. Two men in medical uniforms froze near a stretcher. On that stretcher lay Samuel Whitaker, strapped down, conscious, barely. A tube of clear fluid ran into his arm. Grace screamed, "Dad!" Malloy spun with a gun. Cole hit him before he could aim. The gun went off, shattering a fluorescent light. Smoke and Ridge rushed the fake orderlies. Grace tore at Samuel's straps. "Stay with me." Marcus grabbed the IV bag. "What is this?" Grace looked once and went cold. "Sedative. Too much." Cole stepped on Malloy's wrist as the deputy reached for the gun. "Where's Pike's ledger?" Malloy laughed through pain. "Too late." The furnace roared louder. Samuel's fingers closed weakly around Grace's wrist. "Not paper." Cole turned toward the furnace. Inside, flames licked around blackened metal cases. Smoke blasted the chamber with a fire extinguisher. Ridge dragged one scorched case onto the concrete with a crowbar. A biometric safe. Samuel lifted one finger, not toward the safe, toward Malloy. Malloy smiled. "You need Pike to open it, and Pike's already gone." Outside, an engine started. Cole ran to the door just in time to see Pike's black SUV tear past the gate. In the back window, Preacher's terrified face pressed against the glass. Pike had taken the witness who knew where the first bodies were buried. Cole froze between two wars. Sam convulsing inside, Pike fleeing outside. Samuel grabbed Cole's wrist with the last strength he had. "Go," he rasped. Grace looked at Cole with wet, furious eyes. "Bring both of them back." Cole ran. The chase ended on the old river bridge, a rusted steel structure closed for years. Pike smashed through the barricade and skidded halfway across before one rear tire broke through rotten planks. Cole rode onto the bridge alone. The SUV leaned toward the swollen river. Pike climbed out holding Preacher by the collar, gun under the old man's jaw. "Back up or I put him in the water." Cole killed the engine and stepped off. "Where are you going, Harlan?" Pike laughed, cracked and wild. "You think this is over because you found a basement? You buried veterans. I cleaned up a problem nobody else had the stomach to solve. There it was. No remorse, not even denial." "They were men," Cole said. "They were liabilities, addicts, psych cases, drifters, dead on paper before we touched them. You used their names, their benefits. We used money the county would have wasted anyway. Granger built jobs. The mayor got investment. I kept the streets clean." Preacher suddenly coughed hard, knees buckling. Pike had to choose between keeping the gun steady and holding the old man up. Preacher slammed his heel down on Pike's foot and dropped. The gun fired into the bridge rail. Cole moved. He hit Pike's shoulder first, driving him against the SUV. The gun fell through the boards into the river. Pike swung a broken piece of railing, missing Cole's head by an inch. Cole drove two fists into him, twisted his arm behind his back, and slammed him face first onto the hood as the bridge groaned beneath them. "This is for Sam," Pike spat through blood. Cole leaned close. "No. This is for the men whose names you thought nobody remembered. State troopers reached them minutes later. Sheriff Harlan Pike, you are under arrest. Pike laughed weakly. For what? Preacher, bleeding from the forehead, raised one shaking hand. Murder. I know where Archie Bell is buried. That was the final crack. Back at the crematory, firefighters had shut down the furnace. Malloy and the fake orderlies were in cuffs. Grace was in the ambulance with Samuel. He was conscious, barely. Cole knelt beside him. We got him. Samuel's fingers moved. Safe? Still locked. Marcus held up an evidence bag with a biometric override taken from Malloy's kit. Needs a fingerprint and a code. Grace looked at Sam. What code? Samuel's lips barely moved. Cole leaned closer. Danny, Sam whispered. Cole went still. My brother? Sam nodded. Marcus entered D-A-N-N-Y. The safe clicked open. Inside were hard drives, notebooks, death certificates, benefit transfers, grave photographs, lists of names, and a folder labeled Mercer, Elias, Cole's father. The folder showed benefits paid for 2 years after Elias Mercer's death, housing assistance, medical care, Patriot House placement, all signed by a dead man's hand. Samuel watched Cole from the stretcher. I tried, Sam whispered. Tried what? To tell Danny. About your father. About the first names. Cole's breath caught. Sam's voice broke. Danny came home once, quiet, asking questions about Elias. Then he died. Cole shook his head. Danny died from complications. VA hospital said. Sam tightened his grip on Grace's hand. They lied. The words hit like the bridge collapsing under him. Then Samuel's body arched. The monitor shrieked. Grace shouted for the paramedic. The ambulance doors slammed. Through the rear window, Cole saw Grace bent over her father, fighting to keep him with her. The ambulance did not make it to St. Agnes quietly. Grace rode in the back, one hand locked around Samuel's wrist, counting every weak pulse like numbers could drag him back. Dad, she said. The word came out before she could stop it. For 20 years, that word had been locked behind anger, grief, lies, and men like Pike. Samuel's eyelids fluttered. The monitor screamed. His body went still. No, Grace said. Stay with me. The trauma team took him inside. Grace tried to follow, but a nurse blocked her. Trauma team only. I work here. Grace, not like this. The doors closed. Cole stood beside her with his father's folder in his hand. Neither spoke. There were too many dead men in the hallway, even though one was still fighting behind the doors. 2 hours later, Dr. Patel stepped out. Grace stood so fast her chair tipped over. He's alive, Patel said. She covered her mouth. He is weak. The sedative nearly stopped his breathing. Infection is serious. He needs time. Can I see him? 1 minute. Samuel looked small under the machines, but when Grace sat beside him, his fingers moved toward hers. This time, she took his hand without hesitation. I read your letter, she whispered. I hated you. I need you to know that. A tear slid into his white beard. But I didn't stop loving you. Samuel's lips trembled. You came back. I know that now. Nothing vanished. Not the missed birthdays, not Linda's funeral, not the years of silence. But for the first time, they were on the same side of the wound. 3 days later, Samuel Whitaker gave testimony from his hospital bed. Marcus arranged an emergency deposition with Judge Carrion, state investigators, and federal agents present. Grace sat beside him. Cole stood by the door. Iron shepherds filled the hallway so quietly, even the nurses stopped complaining. Samuel named them all. Archie Bell, Michael Ruiz, Teddy Small, Wayne Carter, Joseph Hanley, the church basement, the Ridgway grave. The fake signatures, the vans. The nights men were loaded like broken furniture. Then he told them about Danny Mercer. Cole did not move when his brother's name was spoken. He kept both hands folded because, if he let them open, he did not know what they would do. Near the end, Samuel's voice nearly failed. Grace tried to stop the deposition. Sam squeezed her hand. No. Names matter. So he finished. By sunset, Harlan Pike was charged with kidnapping, unlawful confinement, evidence tampering, fraud, assault, and conspiracy connected to multiple deaths. Malloy broke first. Men like him always did when the room got cold and the deal got worse. He gave up Granger. Granger gave up the mayor. The mayor gave up 2 county officials and a contractor who signed death paperwork for men he never examined. The story did not stay local. Not because a sheriff was corrupt. People had heard that before. Because of the basement under a church. Because of graves behind a veterans project. Because of the homeless medic who kept a list of names when everyone else kept walking. Weeks passed, then months. The Ridgway Motel was never turned into luxury apartments. The Patriot District banner came down first. The fence came down after that. Federal crews dug behind Room 9, behind the laundry building near the drainage ditch. Every time they found someone, Samuel asked for the name. If there was no name yet, he waited. If there was a name, he wrote it down. Pike's lawyers called Samuel unstable, addicted, unreliable, a bitter homeless man hungry for attention. Then Marcus played the video, Sam giving away his last meal, Sam being beaten behind the diner, Sam's voice from the hospital bed, thin but steady, naming men Pike had buried before the world remembered to look. The jury watched in silence. Pike stopped smiling on the second day. He never got it back. When the verdict came, Grace held Samuel's hand. Cole held Danny's old photo. The Iron Shepherds stood behind them, not as a club making a scene, but as witnesses. Guilty. 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 The word kept coming until even the judge looked tired of saying it. Samuel did not cheer. Neither did Cole. Some victories were too heavy for noise. 1 year later, Mercy Diner closed early on a Friday afternoon because Rachel had to bring the first trays of food to the old Ridgway Motel. It no longer looked like a place where men disappeared. The cracked sign was gone. The pool was filled in and covered with garden beds. The rooms had new doors, clean sheets, and names painted on small brass plates. Not numbers, names. The front office became a kitchen. The laundry room became a clinic. The empty lot became a motorcycle repair shop where veterans could work for pay, not pity. Over the entrance, Cole and Diesel bolted a wooden sign into place. The Last Meal House. Under it, smaller words. No veteran eats alone. Samuel stood below the sign with a cane in one hand and Linda's photograph in the other. He looked healthier now. Not healed. That was too easy a word. His legs still hurt. Some nights he still woke reaching for men who died before he could save them. Some mornings he sat in the kitchen before sunrise and counted coffee mugs like casualties. But he slept inside. He answered to his name. And every Thursday, Grace checked his blood pressure in the little clinic and pretended not to notice when he hid candy in the drawer for younger veterans. On the first night the Last Meal House opened, a storm rolled over Franklin. Rain struck the windows hard, just like the night a biker lost his wallet and an old veteran gave away the only meal he had. Near midnight, the front door opened. A young man stood there in soaked fatigues, no older than 25, thin enough that his cheekbones looked carved in. He had a duffel bag on one shoulder, and the hollow stare of someone who had been thanked for his service by people who never asked where he would sleep. Rachel set a plate in front of him. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans. A dinner roll wrapped in a napkin. The young man stared at it. Then he saw another veteran at the next table, older, shaking, wrapped in a blanket. Without a word, the young man picked up the plate and started to slide it toward him. Samuel's cane tapped once against the floor. The room went quiet. Samuel walked over slowly, every step measured, every eye following him. He placed one hand on the plate and gently pushed it back. "Not tonight, son." The young man looked ashamed. He looks hungrier than me. Samuel pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. No. He looks like you tomorrow if you don't eat today. The young man's mouth tightened. Samuel broke the dinner roll in half, placed one piece beside the plate, and nodded toward it. Tonight you eat first. Cole stood in the doorway, rain on his jacket, watching the old medic who had once saved his brother, then saved his town, now save one more man in the smallest way possible. Grace came up beside him. You okay? Cole looked at Samuel, at the young veteran, at the room full of men and women who finally had doors that locked from the inside. Then he looked at the sign above the entrance. No veteran eats alone. Yeah, Cole said. I think I am. Across the room, Samuel Whitaker sat at a table where nobody had to earn the right to be fed. And for the first time in years, when the rain came down outside, no one under that roof had to wonder if morning would find them still invisible.